So episode 39 starts with the dumped Islanders coming back to vote on who's the least compatible. And Charlie, who I totally forgot about, then I know why, he was just angry and almost to the point where it was too much. Like it's okay, you come back and you got a couple things to say, but he was just too angry. And Leanne asked him too why, because he was going in on Scott, but then he was like, "Nothing against you, Leanne." And Leanne was like, "Why are you so angry?" Like it was too much. But Scott ate him up when he was like, "Did you come all the way here to say that?" He said, "Millie could have sent you a postcard. She's good at sending things home." Like he ate with that. Imani was, she said that she thought that she was happy to see Yaman and Whitney doing well. And she also had nice things to say about Leanne and Scott. And then she said that she wasn't sure about Lucinda and Sean, but she said they have some kind of connection. It's crazy and it's a little delulu, but they at least they have a connection. And so she picked Belle and Harrison because they were the new. They didn't really have because they're a newer couple. So next was Shaq, and he started with Belle and Harrison, and said that he thought that Harrison is a little too young and not man enough for Belle. And Belle kind of was like, "Come on," and he just didn't see them working. He said Sean and Lucinda, he thought that, because this isn't just about saying who's the least compatible, they're giving digs. And he said that Sean and Lucinda, he thinks that it's one sided and that Lucinda's going to drop him like a stone when they get out. No pun intended. That was a quote. So I was wondering where the pun was. Is somebody's last name Stone? Is that Sean's last name? Because I don't get what the no pun intended part came in. But anyway, he essentially picked Belle and Harrison. Oh no, he picked Sean and Lucinda. Sorry, he picked Sean and Lucinda as the least compatible. But he also mentioned that whole her Lucinda being fake and the baby voice and all that. She was like, "What?" I have to say, I think there's probably a little bit of truth to that whole Lucinda being fake thing. I know people love her, but I don't think she's completely innocent. So next was this girl. I think they say her name's AJ. I forgot about her too. But anyway, she said that she questioned Scott and Leanne. She questioned Scott because why wouldn't you just be boyfriend and girlfriend? And Scott listens to his. Everybody says he listens to his head and not his heart. Whatever. And then she went to Belle and Harrison, and she said she questioned Harrison because of well, he's young, first of all, and then everybody's saying that about him, but he is young, and everybody's saying about him. And then she says that I question what's going on the outside. And remember my previous video, I said I had heard that Harrison, what was his girlfriend's name on the outside? I can't remember her name. Lauren. Lauren thought his ex girlfriend, I guess. Lauren thought they were getting back together or something like that, right? Well, everybody's been on the outside and they've heard things. So she's saying that, you didn't tell her you were coming on the show. She thought you guys were back together and all this other stuff. And then everybody else chimed in and they were like the other islanders that were dumped. And the one girl was saying, she was saying that apparently Harrison and Lauren were talking about baby names just a week before he came on the show. And then someone else was like, and your slippers are at her house, which, I mean, I'm kind of with Harrison on that one. He, that's his ex-girlfriend, maybe he left some things. But apparently Lauren is going on podcasts talking about how, he lied to her and how they were supposed to get back together. I don't know, but it's a mess. And I don't really trust Harrison. I never really did though. They kept talking about him sending her a picture of his haircut too. They kept bringing that up. This was Belle's face when they kept bringing up everything. Like she was kind of laughing a little bit, but like, what? And then someone said, from her position, Lauren's position, she felt like they're still together. And Whitney was like, what? But Harrison was like, we broke up in October. That's his story. He's sticking to it. So needless to say, she said the least compatible couple was Belle and Harrison. So next there was Curtis, and He was saying that Millie and Zach were a good couple or whatever. He thinks it's one sided. Everybody thinks it's one sided with Millie. Just like it was one sided with you and Millie Curtis. Just saying. He also then he went to Leanne and Scott, and he said that he thinks they're two different people. He doesn't think they're compatible. So he ended up picking Leanne and Scott. Leanne was saying that she thinks her and Scott are quite similar, and that dude Charlie kept trying to chime in, and he just wanted some airtime. She picked Bell and Harrington. And I think that's Jack. He picked Lucinda and Sean, and he said mainly because of some things that he on the outside he heard that Lucinda was seeing some clothing designer guy. So that's who he picked. Lucinda said that's been being said or something for a while. She didn't really deny it, but I guess she was kind of denying it. Carrington picked Bell and Harrison, and he was saying mainly because the other couples had stronger connections than they did. And previous to that, Jack did say that he felt he didn't want to do Bell and Harrison because he thought it was a easy cop out. So once he said that, Bell kept saying that. So when Carrington ended up picking Bell and Harrison, she was really mad, and she was like, "It's a cop out," and he was like, "It's my opinion. You know, I didn't want to pick." Looking at the other couples, he couldn't do that because they had stronger connections. Bell using Jack's words, "Easy cop out." This was Connor, and he picked Leanne and Scott. And Leanne was really surprised that because she said she confided in him, and he gave her advice, and so she felt like it was out of nowhere. She kind of asked him to explain. He said it was because of some things that he had heard, and he said Curtis he didn't want to bring on the outside. And so Leanne was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, Curtis, I hate to bring you into this, but didn't you say Scott said something about we're halfway through? Shouldn't we do something drastic or something before the final or something like that?" And then Curtis was like, "Well, no." So then Scott said, "I never said anything like that." And so he said, "Well, Curtis," Connor said, "Curtis, can you, I hate to bring you in this." And they were like, "What was exactly said?" And Curtis said that they were, or he said it was in the pool because Scott was like, "I never said anything like that. When was it said?" And Curtis said it was said in the pool, and you said that that we're half at the halfway mark or something. It's time to do something drastic or something like that. And Scott said he did not say that, and he said that Curtis took that out of context because he was talking about he was telling Curtis to get ready because Zach was going to come back with Millie, is what he was trying to say. I don't know, y'all. I kind of believe Scott. I know everybody thinks Scott's playing the game. I guess he's really good at it, but I believe what he was saying. Belle was eating this up. She loved it. And then she had the nerve to be like, "So everybody's not wrong, Scott, or what, whatever." And then he wasn't even talking to her. So he was like, "For once, Belle, can you just not talk?" And this goober was like, "Who do talk to her like that? Watch him out." Like he even cared. So anyway, Connor picked Leanne and Scott. Cher, who looked really pretty, I liked her little outfit. She ended up picking. She didn't want to pick the other couples, and she said she did love how Leanne and Scott were, and being in a triangle with them was fun. But every time she had a talk with Scott, he would always mention Leanne, and he did. And so she said, she picked Belle and Harrison, and of course Belle was like, "It's a cop out," and she's like, "It's not a cop out." She said, "Well, it's my opinion." But of course, Belle was mad. Jesse picked Lucinda and Sean, and I guess she's over looking like the bad guy because she was telling Lucinda she thinks it's one sided, and she said she thinks that Lucinda is fake. And she still thinks she's putting on. So I guess she's right back to where she started with her.